Now I know this might ruffle some feathers, but fat loss is actually pretty simple, and here's why. Before we get into it, I got just a few errands to run. I'm actually headed to the gym in just a second, but before that, I'm gonna get my glasses fixed. The nose pads on my glasses, I'm not sure why, but they always just start being funky after a little while. And if you deadlift pretty often or do anything where you're leaning forward, maybe some of you guys can relate, but you actually lose tension in the side of the glasses. I believe they're called the temples. Maybe it's the arms to the glasses.
Maybe it's her fur.
I don't know. But anyways, it's getting a little hot in here. You know, I got a little sweat going. But to kick off this leg day, I got my hydro jug, half gallon of water in that hydro jug. It's got a little bit of creatine, my favorite company right now, Pescience. Great company. Love all their products, protein, creatine. I haven't really done the pre-workouts because I'm a huge coffee drinker, but they definitely have a non-stem pre-workout, which is more or less just a pump product that I absolutely love as well. I ran out of it, so I'm gonna get some of that pretty soon too. And yeah, we're gonna get into this leg day. Over the last 45 days, I've lost roughly 12 total pounds, which averages out to about 2 pounds per week. Now, you're probably thinking, I probably did some sort of extreme diet, something of the sort, but the answer is no, and I'll tell you why. So I compete in natural pro bodybuilding. The goal of competing in natural pro bodybuilding year-round is to maximize the amount of muscle mass that you have while minimizing the amount of body fat that you have. And so with that, even though I don't have a competition coming up soon, I've gone through periods of massing and then dieting down. When it comes to massing, the goal is to gain as much muscle as possible with as minimal fat as possible. But at a certain point in time, because you're gaining weight, you're gonna gain more fat than you might want. That being said, you wanna make sure that you enter into what's called a mini cut, so that way you can start to get rid of some of the excess body fat that you may have gained and maximize your muscle growth. So over the last 2 years, I've been bulking and cutting pretty consistently every few months. And my last massing phase started in late December and has gone on until about the end of April. And during that time frame, I gained somewhere between 12 to 13 total pounds. And after consulting with my coach, we decided it was time to begin a mini cut. So again, we can maximize the amount of muscle that we've gained while minimizing the fat mass. So at the end of April, right around Easter Sunday, it's now early June, I started my dieting process. My calories did lower. I lowered from about 3,100 calories a day to about 2,700 calories a day, which isn't very extreme. I'm eating roughly 220 grams of protein a day. My fat was roughly around 60 grams of fat per day, and that started to lower down to about 50 grams of fat. And then my carbohydrates were over 440 grams per day previously, and since then, they've lowered below 300. In trying to maximize my muscle mass, we wanted to make sure we kept my carbohydrate intake rather high, at least initially. Since then, my total calories have lowered, so both my carbs and my fat have gone down, but my proteins actually stayed in the same spot. This is pretty important if your goal is to maximize the amount of muscle mass that you have. When you start playing with your levels of protein, you could be interfering with your body's ability to maintain the level of muscle that you already have. So this is why it was pretty important to keep my protein pretty much right where it was. Now, the secret to my weight loss, I don't believe was necessarily my food lowering down as much as it was my activity level. So I started to put a really large emphasis on my step count, roughly averaging about 12,000 steps per day. Typically speaking, getting around 10,000 steps a day is a lot, so I was trying to go above this. 12,000 steps per day and eating less calories than I was eating before started me down the path of losing weight. And outside of this, I was weight training pretty often as I work out roughly 5 days a week, training pretty close to failure in most of my sessions, and really trying to push myself overall. This helped me maximize the amount of muscle mass that I have, or fat-free mass, which allowed me to lose more fat mass as I've lost weight. In a research review recently done by Eric Helms, published on Mass, Monthly Application in Strength Sports, he reviews a study done back in 2021 that was pretty interesting. That showed that anywhere from about age 20 all the way up to about age 60, we're pretty much able to expend the same amount of calories throughout this time frame. So what this means is if you're pretty active, you're able to burn the same amount of calories from age 20 all the way up to about age 60. And Eric actually talks about this in his review. This is the largest study on energy expenditure that's been done yet. So we can trust that this is pretty accurate as far as us being able to put out energy, staying consistent from at least age 20 all the way up to about age 60 roughly. The reason I mention this study is because I think that what I was actually experiencing over the last 45 days is this. Basically, through walking around and just staying overall active, I was able to burn a lot of calories. And the really cool thing about it was it actually kept me from feeling less hungry. So it was basically a win-win. I was able to burn more calories and I wasn't able to feel nearly as hungry throughout this time frame. So that's why I say that fat loss is actually pretty simple. The steps involve roughly estimating how many calories you need to consume and then roughly estimating how many calories you need to put out. Now the process itself isn't necessarily easy. Simple and easy are not the same thing. You gotta figure out time to maybe walk around, maybe play a sport, do something of that sort, time to actually exercise. And in addition to this, you have to be aware of how many calories you're consuming in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be super exact, but to get more accurate results, the more accurate that you track your food, the better the results you'll see. Next time you're thinking about starting a fat loss phase, or if you're in one right now and you're not moving around enough, maybe try it. It might help you out way more than you'd think. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.